Your phone buzzes, then buzzes again, then 3 more times in a row. You open the group chat, scroll past 40 messages you didn't ask for, and feel something close your chest slightly before you've even read a single word. You don't dislike these people. Some of them you genuinely love. But the real answer to why this feels so draining isn't about the people, or the topic, or even the notifications. It's about a number your brain has been quietly enforcing for hundreds of thousands of years, and your phone just broke it completely. Think about what a group chat actually asks of you, not just to read messages, to track who said what, to whom, in what tone, referencing which earlier joke, while also holding in mind how each person might react to whatever you're about to type next. Multiply that by 15 participants, all posting at slightly different times on slightly different topics, and you're not having one conversation. You're simultaneously monitoring several overlapping conversations at once, none of which pause to let you catch up. In the 1990s, a British anthropologist named Robin Dunbar proposed something that would eventually become one of the most cited ideas in social psychology. While studying primate brain size and group size across different species, Dunbar noticed a consistent pattern. The larger a primate's neocortex relative to the rest of its brain, the larger the social group it could realistically maintain. Extending this relationship to humans, Dunbar calculated an estimate for the natural upper limit of stable human relationships, a number now known as Dunbar's number, roughly 150, not 150 casual contacts, 150 relationships stable enough that you'd know who they are, how they relate to you, and could comfortably interact with them if you ran into them unexpectedly. That number isn't arbitrary. Dunbar's theory ties it directly to something called social cognition, the mental effort required to track relationships, obligations, reputations, and social history for each person you know. Every additional relationship adds cognitive overhead. There's a point where your brain simply runs out of capacity to track more people with any real depth. 150, Dunbar argued, is roughly where that ceiling sits for a typical human being. For most of human history, this ceiling was never seriously tested. Hunter-gatherer bands, early agricultural villages, even most traditional communities throughout history, tended to cluster in group sizes well within that range. Your social brain evolved to handle a village, not a feed. The architecture for tracking relationships, tone, history, and context was built for a world where you generally knew everyone you were talking to, and where conversations happened one at a time, with natural pauses, in real time, usually face-to-face. Now hold that ancient architecture up against a modern group chat. A group chat isn't just a small slice of your 150. It's a concentrated, constant access channel to a subset of those relationships, running without the natural rhythms your brain expects. No physical room to leave. No natural lull when everyone happens to be quiet at once. No shared, embodied context, the tone of someone's voice, the look on their face, the exact building block your ancient social reading circuitry relies on most heavily. Instead, you get flat text, arriving whenever, from however many people happen to be online, layered with all the same social tracking demands your brain applies to face-to-face interaction, but stripped of most of the information that usually makes that tracking easier. This is where something researchers call cognitive load becomes relevant. Your working memory, the mental space where you actively hold and manipulate information in real time, has real limits. Constantly parsing who said what, whether a message needs a response, whether your response might land wrong without tone of voice to soften it, whether you're now behind in 3 separate sub-conversations happening inside one thread, draws directly on that limited resource. It's not that you consciously decide this is hard. It's that your brain is quietly spending effort on tracking overhead your ancestors never had to budget for, because their conversations never came 17 people deep with no pause button. There's a specific psychological phenomenon that makes this worse, one researchers call social loafing, or more precisely here, diffusion of responsibility. In a one-on-one conversation, there's no ambiguity about whether you should respond. In a group chat, that clarity disappears. Maybe someone else will answer. Maybe your response isn't needed. Maybe silence is fine because 12 other people are also seeing this message. That constant, low-level uncertainty about your own social obligation is itself a form of mental labor, even when it results in you doing nothing at all. Consider what this means for the exhaustion you feel scrolling through 40 unread messages. You're not just reading text, you're running a rapid series of judgment calls. Do I need to respond to this? Did I miss something important 3 messages back? Is this joke landing or falling flat? Is my silence going to read as rude? None of this requires conscious deliberation most of the time, which is exactly why it's so hard to explain afterward why something as small as a group chat left you feeling drained. The cost isn't in any single message. It's in the constant, low-grade social processing running in the background the entire time the thread stays open. Here's where it gets more specific to group size itself. Communication researchers have found that conversational dynamics shift noticeably as group size increases, well before you approach anything like Dunbar's full ceiling. In small groups, roughly 3 to 5 people, most participants can meaningfully track the entire conversation and contribute without much strain. Once a group grows significantly larger, natural subgroup formation tends to occur, smaller side conversations splitting off within the larger one. Some participants going quiet not from disinterest but because meaningfully tracking everything at once becomes genuinely difficult. Text-based group chats often make this dynamic worse rather than better, because unlike an in-person gathering, there's no physical cue indicating that a side conversation has split off. It all just arrives, stacked in the same thread, demanding the same attention. This reframes something people often blame on themselves. Feeling behind in a group chat, feeling unable to keep up, feeling a strange relief when you mute a thread you actually like being part of, none of that is a social failure. It's closer to a mismatch, an ancient system built for a village-sized, face-to-face, one conversation at a time world, now running a technology explicitly designed to eliminate every one of those natural constraints at once. Think about how deliberately group chats remove the very features your brain relies on. No natural end to the conversation, no physical room to signal a lull, no tone of voice, no shared pause. Every constraint that made ancestral group communication manageable has been engineered away in the name of convenience, connection, and constant access. None of this means group chats are bad, or that the people in them aren't worth the effort. It means the exhaustion is real, physiologically grounded, and not a reflection of how much you value the people involved. You can deeply care about 15 people and still feel your cognitive load spike every time that thread lights up with 40 new messages before breakfast. So the next time you feel that familiar tightness scrolling through an overflowing group chat, you don't have to read it as social failure, introversion, or not caring enough. You're asking a brain built to track a village to now track a permanently open channel with no natural pauses, no faces, and no room to leave, all while somehow deciding, message by message, whether your silence means something it doesn't. Your phone buzzes again. 41 messages now. And for a moment, before you open it, you understand what that small tightening in your chest actually is. Not a character flaw, just an old social system built for 150 relationships in a physical village, quietly straining under a workload it was never designed to carry.